Huawei has filed a fresh legal challenge against the U.S., the company asking a U.S. court to overturn a decision by the Federal Communications Commission that bans carriers from using federal funds to purchase equipment from Huawei. Joining us with the details is Yahoo Finance's Crystal Hu. This is obviously the latest development in the whole back and forth between the U.S. government and Huawei. How significant is this one?
Yeah, so this is one of the few legal battles Huawei is fighting against the U.S. government agency on U.S. courts. FCC just banned the U.S. carriers for using Universal Service Fund, a fund that's significant for carriers in the U.S. to purchase telecom equipment, and they're banned from using that fund to buy equipment from Huawei and ZTE. And here is Huawei's argument to challenge that decision. They say that the FCC is not doing its job by singling out Huawei as national security, because the FCC's job is to regulate telecom industry, not identify what is national security and what is not. And then Huawei also argues that almost like half of the telecom equipment in the market is made in China or made with the joint venture in China. So why single out Huawei and ZTE, who are Chinese companies, not the other companies that made their equipment in China?
Do you think that Huawei has any kind of chance here, or is it just sort of a pro forma thing they're doing as an act of protest? I mean, do they really believe they can get relief in a U.S. courthroom?
Here's the interesting thing, that the U.S. market is insignificant to Huawei because they sell only like 40 telecom equipment here, carrier companies here, and the revenue in the U.S., like North American and the South American combined, only accounts to 6% of Huawei's revenue. But the reason they're fighting so hard in this is that they don't want other countries like in Europe to see it as an example that, the U.S. identifies Huawei as a national security concern. So what we need to do with them, should I follow the U.S. in making that decision?
Okay, so they're trying to make the statement as a warning perhaps to other sovereign entities and governments. But at the end of the day, the article again that we saw earlier, they're making phones without U.S. chips. They don't need us. And it doesn't sound like they just don't need to do business here. The Europeans will take whatever steps they want to take regardless of what we do. So what happens if Huawei loses this?
So we don't know if Huawei will lose this case or not, and because the legal proceedings will always take years. Of course, Huawei said they think they have a pretty good case here because they think the FCC is just being arbitrary in making that decision. And of course, they have the best teams of lawyers. One of their lawyers, I looked it up, is the former head of the legal office in the Department of Justice. So they do have some good people like backing them up. But like you said, even if they lose the case, they lose out the U.S. market, it won't have a fundamental difference or impact on their business. Like even within this year, with all the Department of Commerce blocking their access to Google service, they're still managing to sell their phones and doing businesses in other countries except the
Crystal,
US.
Isn't it true that President Trump has put pressure on other countries not to do business with Huawei, right?
Yes, that's what the U.S. government is trying to do.
Right,
yeah.
so that's actually makes it a little bit more complicated.
So in a way, they're basically suing for their ability to still do business in Europe by making it the FCC.
Or everywhere else outside the U.S.
Sure.
Australia and New Zealand had agreed. They went along with what the U.S.
Yeah, to a degree, mostly. Yeah, almost completely, yeah.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.